Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. The sky over Zeta 3 was a perfect shade of deep blue, the kind that could almost make you forget where you were. It reminded Evelyn Carter of Earth. In fact, much of this place did: the lush forests, the freshwater lakes, the breathable air. But as she stood on the observation deck of the main outpost, looking out at the first signs of human civilization on this alien planet, she knew better than to get too comfortable. Below her, colonists were hard at work, building structures from scratch, erecting small greenhouses, and setting up the perimeter defenses they hoped they'd never have to use. The colony designated as Heaven was meant to be a symbol of hope, a new start for humanity on a world that could sustain life for generations. Yet there was something disquieting about Zeta 3, something that had nagged at Evelyn since they landed 6 months ago. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Mark Dawson said. Voice broke her reverie. The captain of the security team joined her on deck, his sharp gaze scanning the colony. "Yeah," she replied, though her thoughts were elsewhere. "It sounds almost too perfect." Mark gave a low chuckle, the kind that didn't quite reach his eye. "I think we could all use a little perfection. 6 months and not a single hostile encounter. Just fresh air and blue sky, and a planet that resets itself," Evelyn added quietly. That was the thing. Zeta 3 wasn't like any other planet they'd encountered. It didn't just sustain life, it erased it. Mark leaned on the railing, turning his full attention to her. "We've been over this. There's no proof. Maybe it's just wild theories from some of the colonists. People get spooked out here." "No proof yet," Evelyn corrected, her mind already racing through the data her team had been collecting. "But I can feel it. This planet is still alive in a way we don't understand. We need to figure out what's causing the resets before it's too late." Mark sighed, crossing his arms over his chest. "You sound like Lucas." Evelyn smirked. "Lucas isn't wrong. He just needs to learn a little patience." Lucas Mendez was the head engineer, a man whose talents for invention were as large as his ambition. He'd designed most of the colony's infrastructure, and while he was brilliant, he wasn't one to sit idly by when things started going wrong. Lately, he'd been working around the clock, trying to develop a way to protect the colony from whatever strange force might be lurking beneath the surface of Zeta 3. Mark straightened, looking down at the colony with the soldier as practiced eye. "Well, until we know for sure, we'll keep doing what we're doing. Progress doesn't stop because we're scared of the dark." Evelyn didn't respond immediately. She couldn't shake the growing sense of urgency, the feeling that time was running out. If the planet was resetting itself, erasing any sign of their existence, they needed to find out why, and soon. As if on cue, a soft chime echoed through her earpiece. It was her assistant, Maya. "Dr. Carter, we were picking up some strange readings from the North Quadrant." It looks like there was a brief crackle of static before Maya's voice returned, more urgent. "You should come down here." Evelyn exchanged a glance with Mark before heading inside. "I'll be in the lab," she said over her shoulder. "Something tells me we were about to get some answer." By the time Evelyn reached the research lab, the atmosphere inside had shifted. Her team was huddled around the central console, staring intently at a series of holographic displays. The air was thick with tension. "What is it?" she asked, moving quickly to Maya's side. The younger woman gestured to the screen in front of her, where a series of pulsating lines indicated some kind of disturbance. "We were detecting a surge in energy from the planet's core," Maya explained, her voice tight. "It's like nothing we've seen before. The reading started about an hour ago, and they're rebuilding fast." Evelyn's brow furrowed as she studied the data. The patterns were familiar, but only vaguely. It reminded her of seismic activity back on Earth, but this was far more complex, almost like the planet was responding. "Any sign of physical changes?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Maya shook her head. "Not yet, but if the energy keeps increasing, it's only a matter of time." Evelyn's mind raced. "Get Lucas in here," she ordered. "We need to find out what's causing this." As Maya relayed the message, Evelyn moved to the console and began running a series of simulations. The planet's ecosystem was stable, yet beneath the surface, something was stirring. The energy surges were erratic but powerful, like ripples in a pond. If her hypothesis was correct, they were on the verge of witnessing the planet's first reset since their arrival. The thought sent a chill down her spine. Lucas arrived not long after, his expression grim. He was a wiry man with sharp features and an intensity that never seemed to waver. His eyes flicked between the monitors, his mind already working through possible solutions. "I've just been running the numbers," he said, without preamble. "If these energy surges are what I think they are, we're looking at a reset within the next 24 hours. Evelyn felt her stomach drop. "That's it." Lucas nodded, tapping a few keys on the console to pull up a 3D model of the planet's core. "The energy levels are off the charts, whatever's aren't down there. It's getting ready to wipe the slate clean." The weight of his words settled over the room like a dark cloud. Everyone knew what a reset meant. The colony, the buildings, the technology they'd painstakingly constructed over the past 6 months would all be erased, returned to a primal, untouched state. It would be as if they'd never been there. "We need to stop it," Evelyn said, her voice steady despite the rising fear in her chest. "There has to be a way to delay the reset, at least long enough for us to figure out what's triggering it." Lucas shook his head. "You can delay a natural process like this. The planet's been doing this for millennia. Really just the latest in a long line of civilizations to try and make a mark here." Evelyn's gaze sharpened. "What do you mean?" Lucas hesitated before answering. "The ruins we found a few miles west of the colony. They weren't just random structures. I've just been studying them, and they were older than anything we've ever seen. This planet has had visitors before us, and every one of them vanished after a reset." Maya let out a low gasp. "You mean they all failed?" Lucas gave a grim nod. "They built, they thrived, and then the planet erased them. We're not the first, and if we're not careful, we want to be the last." The team worked through the night, their efforts fueled by the growing sense of dread that hung over the colony. As the sun began to rise over Zeta 3's horizon, the energy surges from the planet's core grew more intense. The air itself seemed to vibrate with the sheer force of it. Evelyn, Mark, and Lucas gathered in the main control room where they watched the readouts spike higher and higher. "It's happening," Lucas said quietly. "We're out of time." Mark turned to Evelyn. "Let's start the plan if we can. Talk the reset. We need to at least protect the people." Evelyn's mind raced, weighing their options. They couldn't evacuate, not without leaving everything they'd built behind, but staying meant risking annihilation. "We can't fight the planet," she said finally, "but maybe we can work with it." Lucas frowned. "What are you thinking?" Evelyn gestured to the holographic model of the planet's core. "The resets are part of the planet's natural cycle, right? But if we can sync our technology with that cycle, find a way to ride the wave instead of being wiped out by it, maybe we can survive." Mark raised an eyebrow. "You think we can coexist with this thing?" Evelyn nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We have to. It's like the only way." Lucas glanced at the readouts. "Again, we've got less than an hour before the next reset hits. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast." Evelyn took a deep breath, her decision made. "Get the engineers on it. We're going to build a synchronization device, something that can match the planet's energy pulse. If we can create a buffer zone, we might be able to shield the colony from the reset." Mark didn't look convinced, but he nodded. "I'll get the team ready." As he turned to leave, Lucas hesitated. "Evelyn, if this doesn't work." "It will," she said firmly, though inside she wasn't so sure it has to. In the final minutes before the reset, the colony was a hive of frantic activity. Engineers worked in tandem with scientists, constructing the synchronization device with whatever materials they could scavenge. Lucas oversaw the project, his hands moving with the precision of a surgeon as he made last-minute adjustments. Evelyn watched from a distance, her heart pounding in her chest. The planet's energy was building to a crescendo, a force so powerful it made the ground tremble beneath her feet. 10 minutes. Maya's voice crackled over the comms. "We're almost out of time." Lucas tightened the last bolt on the device and stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's ready." Evelyn swallowed hard. "Activated." Lucas pressed a button, and the device hummed to life. A faint blue light radiated from its core, pulsing in time with the planet's energy. For a moment, nothing happened. The air around them seemed to still, the tension hanging like a physical weight. And then the ground shifted. The ground shifted beneath them, a deep tremor that rolled through the colony like an invisible wave. This synchronization device emitted a high-pitched whine, its blue light pulsing faster as the planet's energy surged in response. Evelyn gripped the edge of the console, her knuckles white as the tremor intensified. For a few heart-stopping seconds, it felt like the entire world was about to come apart. Then just as suddenly the tremors ceased, the air around them grew still, the blue light from the device stabilizing into a steady rhythm. The tension in the room broke as the colonists let out a collective breath, their eyes darting between each other in disbelief. Lucas stepped forward, his eyes locked on the synchronization device. "How did it work, Tara?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Evelyn's gaze flicked to the monitors, watching as the planet's energy levels plateaued, their wild fluctuations settling into a steady pulse that mirrored the device. Relief washed over her as she turned to Lucas and nodded. "Harry, it worked. We're still here." The colonists erupted in cautious cheers, their voices filled with both joy and exhaustion. Mark, who had been standing near the perimeter of the control room, allowed himself a rare smile before quickly regaining his composure. "Don't get too comfortable, Pishi," said, his voice cutting through the noise. "This was a temporary fix. We still don't know if the planet will let us keep this up." Evelyn couldn't argue with that. The synchronization device had bought them time, but the deeper mystery of Zeta 3 still loomed over them. The planet was alive in a way they barely understood, and while they had managed to ride out the latest reset, there was no guarantee that they would be able to continue doing so. "We need to study this," she said, turning back to Lucas. "We synchronize with the planet's pulse, but we only delaying the inevitable. There still more. We don't know." Lucas nodded, his eyes distant. "Great deed. The resets are part of this planet's natural cycle, but there's something more we're missing." Mark, ever the pragmatist, interrupted. "No more being caught off guard. I want everyone on high alert until we have answers." Evelyn watched him leave, the weight of the situation heavy on her shoulders. She knew Mark was right. They needed answers, and they needed them fast. But as the adrenaline of the near disaster began to fade, exhaustion crept in. It had been a long night, and the danger was far from over. Lucas placed a hand on her shoulder, his eyes softening. "DL, get some rest, Evelyn. You've been at this for hours. We'll keep monitoring the system, but you need to take a break." She opened her mouth to protest, but the words didn't come. He was right. She was running on fumes. Fine, Peter," she said, conceding theory, but only for a few hours. As she left the control room and made her way to her quarters, the magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. They had survived this time, but how many more resets could they hold off? How long before the planet decided to wipe them out for good? Evelyn lay down, her body heavy with fatigue, but sleep did come easily. Her mind was too full, spinning the thoughts of the planet's strange energy and the ruins Lucas had mentioned. Ancient civilizations, wiped out by resets, their efforts erased by the relentless force of nature. What had they missed, and why had none of them been able to stop it? As she finally drifted off, one thought lingered. They were living on borrowed time. When Evelyn woke, the world felt eerily quiet. She rubbed her eyes, the faint glow of the synchronization device still visible on the horizon through the window of her quarter. For a brief, blissful moment, she could almost believe that everything was fine, that the reset had passed, and they were safe. But that illusion shattered the moment she stepped back into the control room. Mark and Lucas were already there, hunched over the monitors, their face itched with worry. The air was thick with tension, and the screen before them showed new, unsettling data. "What is it?" Evelyn asked, her voice still thick with sleep as she crossed the room. Lucas didn't look up from the display. The synchronization held through the night, but we've detected another spike in the planet's core. The energy levels are climbing again. Evelyn felt her stomach twist. Already, that doesn't make sense. The resets are supposed to be part of the natural cycle. They shouldn't be happening this fast. "I know," Lucas said, frustration evident in his voice.
"Yeah.
But something set changed. The energy surges are stronger this time. It's like the planet is reacting to us, to the synchronization device." Mark folded his arms, his face grim. Maybe the planet doesn't like what we did. Maybe it sees us as a threat. Or maybe it's trying to communicate. Evelyn suggested, though. Even she wasn't sure if she believed it. The resets are its way of maintaining balance, right? Maybe it's trying to tell us something. Lucas shook his head. If that's the case, then it's not a language we can understand. All we know is that the energy levels are climbing faster than before. We've had yet hours, maybe less, before the next reset. A heavy silence fell over the room as the weight of his words sank in. They had only just survived the first reset, and now they were facing another, even more powerful event. The synchronization device had worked for now, but how long could they rely on it before the planet wiped them out for good? Mark was the first to break the silence. The synchronization device bought us some time, but this place is a ticking time bomb. If the resets are getting more frequent, stay here. Evelyn shook her head. We can't just leave. We came here to establish a colony, to learn from this planet. If we evacuate, now we lose everything. Mark's jaw tightened. And if we stay, we risk losing more than just our colony. Lucas, who had been silent during the exchange, finally spoke out. There's another option. Evelyn and Mark both turned to him, their eyes narrowing in suspicion. The ruins, Lucas said, pulling up a map of the planet's surface. I've been studying them, trying to piece together what happened to the civilizations before us. There's something buried deeper beneath the surface, an artifact. Maybe. Whatever it is, it predates the ruins we've found, and it's connected to the resets. Evelyn's house pulse quickened. You think it could stop the resets? I don't know. Lucas admitted, Ari, but it's not our best shot. If we can find it, maybe we can understand what's causing the resets and find a way to coexist with the planet. Mark wasn't convinced, that's a lot of maybe. It's a risk. Lucas said, but if we do nothing, the resets will keep coming, and eventually we won't be able to stop them. We'll be running out of time. Evelyn's sun mind raced. Lucas was right. The synchronization device had bought them time, but it wasn't a permanent solution. The resets were getting stronger, and they needed answers. The ruins held the key to the planet. It's mysteries, but the journey would be dangerous. The artifact, whatever it was, could hold the answers they sought, or it could lead them to their doom. We'll need a team, Evelyn said, her voice steady. Yay, Lucas, you will lead the expedition. Mark, you will stay here and make sure the synchronization hold. Mark gave a reluctant nod. You better make it back. Evelyn managed a faint smile. We will. The journey to the ruins was treacherous, the landscape of Zeta 3 shifting with each step they took. As they ventured deeper into the wilds, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that the planet was watching them, its unseen forces pulling at the edges of her consciousness. Lucas led the way, his scanner in hand, eyes focused on the distant coordinates of the artifact buried beneath the surface. The wind whipped through the trees, carrying with it an eerie hum that seemed to vibrate in the air around them. We were close, Lucas said, his voice barely audible over the wind. Just a little further. Evelyn's heart raced as they crested a ridge. And there in the valley below were the ruins. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, ancient structures carved from stone, their surfaces etched with symbols that glowed faintly in the fading light. At the center of the ruins was a massive circular structure, its walls pulsing with energy. The artifact that Senate said, his voice filled with awe. We found it. But as they descended into the valley, the ground began to tremble beneath their feet. The air grew heavy with static. The planet, its energy surging around them, growing stronger with every step. Evelyn's soul quickened. We need to move. They reached the artifact just as the tremors intensified, the air vibrating with the force of the planet's fury. Lucas dropped to his knees, pulling out his tools as he began to work on the artifact, his hands moving with frantic precision. But as the ground shook beneath them and the sky darkened with the threat of another reset, Evelyn knew they were running out of time. The planet was awakening.